All right, we have an online question from Adam, and he is wanting your thoughts on Senator Sasse's maiden floor speech. I know recently Senator Sasse made a visit to Utah for the Utah Solution Summit. What would you like to say about that?
Well, first of all, I loved having Senator Sasse visit the state of Utah. You know, I made a bet with him when BYU played Nebraska. And I promised to donate food to a food bank and charitable organization in Nebraska if Nebraska won, and he promised to do the same to a Utah food bank if BYU won. So when BYU pulled off that great victory at the end of that game, Ben Sasse agreed to come out to Utah. And while he was here delivering on his bet and delivering food to the Utah food bank, incidentally, he donated about 200 pounds of pork loins to the Utah Food Bank. It was fantastic. He also attended my Solutions Summit. But yeah, you're right. A couple weeks ago, Ben Sasse delivered his maiden floor speech in the United States Senate. And I was reminded of so many of the reasons why I was an early supporter of Senator Sasse when he ran for the United States Senate in Nebraska. He's a wonderful man, a former college president, a renowned scholar, and a very wise man who understands the needs of this country. He talked a lot about some of the sclerosis that we face in the United States Senate and the fact that we need to reform the Senate. We need to improve the way it functions so that it's actually delivering for the American people. Senator Sasse believes, as I firmly believe, that this can be a better institution, but it will be a better institution only to the extent that we start responding better to the American people, only to the extent that we stop seeking to serve our own interests and start to look for ways to serve those that we were elected to serve. It's one of the reasons why I have been involved in this process of developing what the National Review recently described as an idea factory, of having a proactive agenda for my legislative strategy, one that involves putting forward bite-sized reforms that nearly all Republicans and hopefully many Democrats can support to help bring about positive change in Congress. Very often what we have to do here involves opposing the legislation that we don't like, but it's equally important to propose affirmative legislation, laws that we do like. And we've been successful in doing that. A few months ago, we were successful in passing the USA Freedom Act. It's a bill that I wrote and was the lead sponsor of. My chief co-sponsor was Patrick Leahy, who is a liberal Democrat from Vermont. But he and I agree on some issues, and we agreed, among other things, that it's not okay for the NSA to collect your cell phone data, information about who you call, who calls you, when you talked, and how long you spoke. Storing that information in a database for 5 years at a time. The government has no business collecting all that information and storing it for 5 years at a time, and that's why we wrote the USA Freedom Act and we passed it into law a few months ago. This is just one of those issues that is neither Republican nor Democratic. It's neither liberal nor conservative. It's an American issue, and I was proud to be a part of it. But there's more to come, and there are many more items in my reform agenda that I'm still working on and trying to push forward.